Is CERN really running an experiment during the solar eclipse? Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Is NASA really launching 3 rockets into the eclipse during totality? Oh, yeah, I'm going to share that with you also. And did you know that in 1999, there was a major eclipse over Turkey, and just months after, one of the biggest earthquakes of all time? So buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to talk about the National Guard. We're going to talk about how places in Canada are closing schools for the solar eclipse. We're talking National Guard with hazmat training. This is quite incredible. Now, I did do some research and I did find that in South Carolina, back during the eclipse in 2017, National Guard was deployed also, but it didn't seem to be quite this big of a deal. So we're going to talk about it. First, I want to share with you the article from CERN, and it's titled Accelerator Report, Protons or Easter Eggs? Let's hope for both. And you have to read through the entire article. And in the very last paragraph, it says, on the 27th of March, beams entered into test collisions at the target energy of 6.8 trillion electron volts in the LHC. These were not yet stable beams, which meant that the experiments did not take data. Collisions for physics at 6.8 trillion electron volts are expected to take place April 8th. Perfect timing. That's what I'm talking about. Now, you know what else is perfect timing? It's perfect timing to give Colin from Noble Gold Investments a call. Call up Noble Gold Investments. You'll thank me later. Did you know that gold right now is at an all-time high? We told you. We said that was going to happen. Now, there's people a lot smarter than myself that have also been making these projections. And guess what, folks? The gold and silver opportunities and precious metals opportunities are amazing. Now, there's never any guarantees, obviously. So look at what the big banks are doing. If you look at what the big banks are doing, they're still purchasing tons of gold, literally tons of gold. So build your bank. And as a gift, this is super cool, Noble Gold Investments will gift you a 1/4 ounce gold coin to add to your collection. If you qualify, find out how when you convert your 401 or IRA through Noble Gold Investments. You can even convert into cryptos like Bitcoin. You can trade in your IRA. You can mix and match. It's all about options. And they will ship gold and precious metals directly to your house, even if you're in the boonies. I've got friends and subscribers that have had gold mailed to them to their homestead in the boondocks, way out in the middle of the woods, folks. So give them a call, 1-877-646-5347. Go to leakprojectgold.com, get the free ebooks. Let them know Rex from Leak Project sent you. Countless 5-star reviews, A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Noble Gold is the gold company that I trust. And Colin's awesome. So, okay. Let's get into this. We're going to talk about the CERN experiments. We're going to go to CERN. Here we go. This is from CERN. And I just shared with you the final paragraph where they say that they are doing experiments on April 8th. They're being nonchalant about it. They're making it sound like Easter eggs. And this is the article. So beam commissioning is progressing well across the entire accelerator complex, with initial completion achieved in the first machines of the chain. Just change this a little bit. There we go. Now I can see you more. Last week, the first physics experiments started in the East area behind the PS, and others will follow suit shortly. However, despite the overall positive momentum of beam commissioning, challenges have arisen along the way, highlighting the complexities involved. Last week, some of the components of one of the Linux 4 accelerating structures, specifically the cell-coupled drift tube Linux, you've heard of those, right? 3 and 4 presented some issues. So, like, are they literally summoning entities from the 4th dimension or from different dimensions? I don't know. But do you know what's weird? Now, of course, this has got to be just a coincidence. But in 2022, they did one of their biggest experiments of all time. They did it 7/5, July 5th, 2022. And it was experiment or run 3. And it was the 10th anniversary of the discovery of the Higgs boson particle. Now, my sci-fi mind goes into science fiction mode. And I'm like, that's interesting. Because remember what happened the day after which of course is George Bush Jr., President George Bush Jr.'s birthday. He turned 76, 2022. And what else happened that day? Well, look at what happened to the Guidestones. And then after that, how many politicians resigned? Entire cabinets resigned in the UK. It was weird. And whether or not it had anything at all to do with the particle accelerator charging up and doing run 3 the day before, it probably didn't. $1 million. Remember that from, oh man, what was that show or that movie that came out where then Jeff Bezos did a spoof on it? Anyway, why am I not remembering the name of that off the top of my head? $1 million. Okay, so anyway, this experiment, then the next day, well, guess what, folks? What's going to happen when they do a CERN experiment for the Dr. Evil? Was it? No, what the heck? Michael Myers is in it. What the heck is that movie? Gosh dang it. Michael Myers, $1 million. Austin Powers, duh. Okay, so this is from the McCurtain Gazette. Eclipse National Guard deployment will bring hazmat capabilities. The Oklahoma National Guard is one of many agencies planning to set up shop in McCurtain County during the April 8th total eclipse. Despite a great deal of speculation on social media, the role of the unit coming here is focused on emergency response. The 22-man team from the 63rd Civil Support Team will be available to assist local government agencies during the eclipse event, during which the country is expected to see a massive influx of visitors. According to a press release from the Oklahoma National Guard issued Monday, the 63rd will provide local first responders with additional hazmat capabilities. National Guard officials also noted that the presence was requested by local authorities. McCurtain County Emergency Management requested our support because they expected to 100,000 additional people visiting the communities to watch the eclipse, said Lieutenant Colonel Jabon Fleury, the 63rd CST commander. I apologize if I got your first name wrong. Jabon or Jabin. Fleury is a really cool last name, by the way. Perfect for what you do. Thanks for your service. This influx of visitors has the potential to overtax local resources, and thanks to the training and experience our guardsmen have working alongside local agencies all across Oklahoma, the CST is uniquely qualified to support our fellow Oklahomans. In the event of hazmat emergency, like an industrial fire that requires specialized training, the 63rd CST's resources will respond, allowing local emergency responders to continue their assistance to citizens and the expected increase of visitors. Now, my question is, are you concerned that there could be an industrial fire? Like, why would that even be a concern? Why would that be a concern? Unless, now this is just showing how the Ottawa Carleton District School Board is closing schools on April 8th out of abundance of caution for the rare solar eclipse. And this event will occur over the sun in Ottawa and across eastern Canada, set between April 8th, 2 p.m. and 4:45 p.m. So they are closing school. Now, this is interesting. This is what a lot of people have been talking about, the rockets that are being launched into space during the eclipse, 3 of them. How significant? Well, you do remember, don't you? You do remember in 2017, very similar article, Eclipse 2017. This is from NASA.gov. Science from the Moon's Shadow. Rockets into Moon's shadow during solar eclipse. So let's go back to this article here. And December 11th, 2017, 6 researchers discussed initial findings based on observations of the sun and on Earth gathered during the solar eclipse that stretched across North America, August 21st, 2017, which of course was 33 days prior to September 23rd, 2017, which is when the astrological alignments took place in the heavens that parallel to Revelation 13. Well, ranging from new information about the way the sun's atmosphere generates heat to how the dip in solar energy affected Earth's atmosphere, and even how to protect against contaminating other planets with bacteria, the researchers shared their results at the fall meeting of the American Geophysical Union in New Orleans. It says here, the eclipse gave us the opportunity to cement the idea of the sun-Earth connection, said Lika Guatha Akurta, who headed up NASA's science efforts for the August 21st eclipse. A variety of new observations, instruments, and observational platforms were enabled by the eclipse. It will be fascinating to watch how these develop into new research plans and new technology for future use. Well, what I remember is they also launched these rockets into the atmosphere with certain bacteria. Where is this? Yeah, here it is, right here. The project incorporated weather balloon flights from a dozen locations to form a picture of how Earth's lower atmosphere, the part we interact with, and which directly affects our weather, reacted to the eclipse. These data points reveal that the planetary boundary layer, the lowest part of the Earth's atmosphere, dropped down nearly to its nighttime altitude during the eclipse. Several dozen of the eclipse balloons also flew cards containing harmless bacteria to help us understand potential planetary contamination issues. We don't want to contaminate other planets when we send robots or even humans, so we need to understand if microscopic life like bacteria could survive on Mars, said Desjardins. In many ways, Earth's stratosphere is similar to the environment on the surface of Mars, with one primary exception: the amount of sunlight. But during the eclipse, the level of sunlight dropped to something close to what you might expect to see on Mars, providing the perfect environment to test the hardiness of these potential Mars invaders. Scientists are looking at data from this experiment and hope to have results to publish within the next few months. What is this bacteria that they launched? Where's this at? Let's type that in. What type of bacteria did NASA launch into the 2017 eclipse? It's called, this is from The Verge. Here it is. The bacteria that will fly to the edge of space is a particular strain called Pinnacle xerothermoduranus. Duranduranus. Let's see what this is. It's a spore-forming mesophilic bacterium that forms circular colonies and was isolated from heat-stressed soil, according to backdive.dsmvz.de. Or you could go to the National Institute of Health.gov, and it is, let's see what they say, a gram stain positive motile endospore producing facultative anaerobic bacterial strain isolated from heat stressed soil of Cape Canaveral, Florida. Interesting. Well, I have no idea what any of that means, so maybe we could have somebody explain that in better detail, but I did want to look it up. And then let's go to the next. So they launched this into space during the eclipse, and they say it's harmless. Well, that's good to know. Now, this is from Paul Maley, or Mali. This is the 1999 total solar eclipse in Turkey. You can see the path right here, the totality path. This is from 1999. So this totality path from 1999, and then this is from 2006. 7 years later, it was actually 6.63 years later, 2,422 days later. I looked it up. So the first eclipse, 8/11/1999. Then guess what? 6 days later, one of the biggest earthquakes in history in that region. Turkey gets obliterated with an earthquake 6 days later. So 8/17, massive earthquake. Then 2,422 days later, you have this eclipse here that creates the X over Turkey. X marks the spot. So you can see the chism structure of the four halves according to joybysurprise.com research here. This shows you've got the modern day Turkey path where you can see the X, the first one from 8/11, the second from 3/29/2006. There was an earthquake shortly after in that region, in the southwest region, but it wasn't catastrophic like the one that took place 7 years prior, or almost 7 years prior. You can see the one over America titled Babylon the Great that's going to be taking place here in a few days to create this X. And then you can see the Middle East. The totality X marks the spot close to Luxor and the Red Sea and Mecca, and that happens 8/2/2027, and then finishing off in 3/20/2034. Now, the chiasm is a structure that mirrors itself. It's found quite often in the Bible in the way that the Bible verses and chapters were written. The sentence structure itself of the literature enhances the meaning of the literature and points to a theme usually located at the center of the chiasm. And then you can read more about it, and I'll leave links in the video description box. I think it's really cool to see the totality paths. And then you can see a very unique totality path that took place 7 years apart from each other at the North Pole, 2008 as well as 2015. Very significant years, 8/1/2008, 3/20/2015. Notice the similarities of these 7 year timelines, approximately 7 years for the eclipse. This is the map of the main shock and aftershocks that were a magnitude 4 or greater in northwest Turkey 6 days after the eclipse in 1999. This was a catastrophic earthquake. Absolutely terrible, the aftermath of this earthquake. Now you can see here, then once again, this is 4 months after. No, I'm sorry. This is 8 months after, 7 months and 20 days after the other eclipse that created the X in Turkey. 8 months later, there's a 4.6 in the Western Turkey region as well. This is showing the 2006 path here. This is showing the counties where you will see totality of the eclipse, which I'm sure you all know. I wanted to share this with you because this is showing the path of what the news called a Chinese spy balloon. It takes a very similar path to the totality of the 2017 eclipse. And the question is, why? Are they gathering data there? Behind the scenes, are they preparing for a very real possibility of a major event, a major earthquake that could create industrial fires and panic and possibly power outages? Are they predicting something? Do they have intel on something that could take place behind the scenes that could be looked at as some type of attack? So they're preparing for that possibility. It's always good to be prepared, not scared. Now, I don't know. I'm asking questions, and I think it's very okay, so if we look at the past and if we follow what has happened previously during eclipses and the aftermath of eclipses, it does seem that there could be a parallel to earthquakes. Now, this isn't definitive, so we can put this in the theory realms here. Like, okay, well, let's be prepared, not scared. And the amount of biblical parallels is fascinating. We've already gone over that. And, if you were going to start a nation and you were going to have a secret society of very intelligent astrologers and builders create a civilization, and you were going to link it to certain astrological events that could look like prophecy as well as be prophecy, or just based upon where the stars and planets will be aligned, that so that you can then create a poem or poetry or scriptures to link up to those events, and then say those events will either create something magnificent that can be beautiful or the opposite, right? Kind of like the crossroads we're at with 2024. 2 + 2 + 4 = 8. The center of 8 is an X. X is the crossroads. X marks the spot in the Great Babylon. We are dealing with the crossroads. And it's up to us, as well as the global collective, as well as obviously the most important, divine providence, to, like, I've been thinking about this. If we are created to be free in a sense at a spiritual level, then to be the very best would also be beneficial to our creator, would it not? Like if we're really doing what we were, what our heart inspires us to do, hopefully it inspires you to do the right things. But I find this very fascinating. It's scary, but it's also enlightening, right? Like what could happen? Will there be an event that takes place May 18th? Something's going to happen May 18th. The question is what? Something's going to happen May 18th. That's 40 days after the eclipse. It could be something like an event or a ceremony. It could also be something else, but there will be something that takes place on that day. So a very significant date. And with all of that in mind, let's see what NASA's doing for 2024 here. The atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path sounding rockets will launch from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia to study the disturbances in the ionosphere created when the moon eclipses the sun. The sounding rockets has been previously launched and successfully recovered from White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico during the October 2023 annular solar eclipse. They have been refurbished with new instrumentation and will be relaunched in April 2024. The mission is led by Ara Barjatia, a professor of engineering physics at Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University in Florida, where he directs the Space and Atmospheric Instrumentation Lab. Look at that. Look at those rockets. Greg Allison would be ecstatic right now. So this photo shows 3 APEP sounding rockets and the support team after successful assembly. The team led Aero Barjatia is at, I apologize if I mispronounced your name, is at the top center standing next to the guardrails on the second floor. Now, the rockets are going to be launched at 3 different times, 45 minutes before, during, and 45 minutes after the peak local eclipse. And these intervals are important to collect data on how the sun's sudden disappearance affects the ionosphere, creating disturbances that have the potential to interfere with our communications. The ionosphere is a region of Earth's atmosphere that is between 55 to 310 miles above the ground. It's an electrified region that reflects and refracts radio signals and also impacts satellite communications as the signals pass through, said Barjatia. Understanding the ionosphere and developing models to help us predict disturbances is crucial to making sure our increasingly communication-dependent world operates smoothly. This shows the changes in the ionosphere over a 24-hour period. Red and yellow swaths represent high-density ionized particles during the day. The purple dots represent neutral, relaxed particles at night. They are expected to reach a maximum altitude of 260 miles. They will measure charged and neutral particle density and surrounding electric and magnetic fields. They will eject 4 secondary instruments the size of a 2-liter soda bottle that also measures the same data points, so it's similar to results from 15 rockets, while only launching 3. 3 secondary instruments on each rocket were built by Embry-Riddle, and the 4th one was built by Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. In addition to the rockets, several teams across the U.S. will also be taking measurements of the ionosphere by various means. A team of students from Embry-Riddle will deploy a series of high-altitude balloons. Co-investigators from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Haystack Observatory in Massachusetts, and the Air Force Research Laboratory in New Mexico will operate a variety of ground-based radars taking measurements. Using this data, a team of scientists from Embry-Riddle and Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory are refining existing models together. These various investigations will help provide the puzzle pieces needed to see the bigger picture of ionospheric dynamics. Brought to you by NASA. Wow, that's pretty wild. I mean, I can see a lot of this being used for defense applications, communications applications, long, like very, like space communications, basically. Space travel, being able to see what's coming in, what's leaving, measuring the different levels of radiation, the effects that that will have on equipment, as well as measurements. Maybe we'll see something up there that we don't normally see, or we can observe something we don't normally observe. It's fascinating about what CERN is doing, because now what I would like to know is, could it possibly be in the path of this totality? I'll look on this more and update you. Let's actually look on it now. Will CERN be in the totality of the eclipse, April 8th, 2024? I don't see anything. I don't think it's going to be in the path of totality. It will be fascinating to see what kind of research presents itself after this. I'm really interested to know. It's going to be very interesting. So thanks for watching. Check us out on Patreon. Like, you can be a Patreon member for $1, and that totally helps us out here at Leak Project. So I do my best to keep the ads to a minimum, and I'm very happy with our sponsors. Otherwise, I wouldn't even talk about them. We have the best sponsors out there, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Be well, hit the bell, be excellent to each other, be prepared, not scared, and be the change the world needs to see. It starts with you. Nanu, nanu.